Don says at first he thought it could have been some, and I quote, sicko, druggy hillbilly. Don't ring a bell. Alright guys, today we're going to talk about Don's interview with Chris over the phone right after Chris had insinuated that Don was in the shed when he was at their house. So, a little bit of tension in the air at the beginning of the interview. But they talk it out, they pound it out, talk it out, and decide, hey, it's for summer, we're doing this for summer. Let's move ahead and let's focus on summer. Now, I gotta say, the focus didn't stay on summer a ton because one of them started rambling a lot and telling bullshit stories. You decide who I'm talking about. Alright, so he starts out, and in typical Don fashion, talks about how fast he drove home after getting that call from Candace saying that Summer was missing. Says he made it in 30 minutes, if not faster. So he cut a 45-minute drive down to 30 minutes or less. You'd have thought Don was delivering for Domino's or something. He got there so fast. Wasn't getting no free pizza off Don. Alright, so then he talks about, and this has troubled a lot of people. I'm one of them. Talks about as soon as he got there, first place he went to was the shed. You'd have thought to the house, of course, and asked Candace what happened and clarified. Nope, you'd be wrong. To the shed. And he talked to Candace the whole way there on Messenger. Now, I don't know if he meant, because on Messenger you can talk, you can make a call, or you can do all kinds of shit. So I'm hoping that's what he was saying. He had like somewhere to mount his phone and was talking to her like that. I'm hoping he ain't sitting there trying to message and drive insanely fast like he does. You'll hear another example of that later. I might want to hold it back. Don tells that when he found out about this Jose issue, that he drove an average of 110 miles an hour from Utah to Tennessee. Now, he got pulled over by a cop, but the cop let that slide because he understood Don had to get home and he had to get on fast. He was on a mission. Jose's ass was getting whooped. Speed is not an issue. So, I don't know. You believe that? If you do, we need to talk. He talks about he drove straight to the shed, then he went down to the creek in his four-wheel drive Subaru. And that was suspicious as hell that he said it that way. Don wants everybody to know he had the Subaru that day. And I've talked about that before. There's reasoning behind that. I ain't sure which one it is because there could be a few different reasons. But there's a reason he wants to make damn sure everybody knows he was driving the Subaru that day. I'm not sure what it is. I know it's important, but I'm not sure how important yet. I'm figuring that out, though. We can get to the bottom of this. He says the cops didn't believe him when he said Summer wasn't lost because it's usually the parents. what he said. I don't know. I don't know if the cops believed him or if they didn't. But he seemed to think the cops didn't believe him because it's usually the parents when a kid disappears. I can't speak for the cops. I don't know. I would think looking at Don, he is kind of shady looking, that they were probably like, this guy could have something to do with it. Let's check this guy out. That's what I'd have been like. I don't know. Then he talks about, this is a little out of order because they bounce around a bit. But he's talking about, he tells these cops, look, I'm going to go around to all these drug dealers' houses, and I'm going to find out what's up. I'm going to question them all. Now, I find it hard to believe the police are going to allow that shit. But it's what Don says. Said he was on his way to do it, run into a bottleneck because now searchers are showing up and all this, and he couldn't get out. Good thing for them drug dealers. Well, it's probably a good thing for Don. He'd have probably got his ass whipped coming to some drug dealer's house. Hey, my daughter's missing. You know anything about it? That first dude been like, your daughter's missing and you come to my house? Oh, hell no. So, I don't buy none of that. I don't think he planned on going nowhere. I think he's full of shit. And I think if the cops are letting him and Candace run around after they're on scene doing this and that, then that speaks very poorly of how they were handling this. But we don't know, we don't know if Don's being truthful or not. I'm sorry, I'm trying not to play with the papers. I get jumped on for that in the comments a lot. I will try to do better, working on it. And I get told I sway too much and move around. People say it's off-putting. Try to cut that down too. Got a lot to think about, man, when I'm trying to record these. Now so far, Don's making it out like he beat the police there. Now I've always had an issue with that. If she called the cops right after she talked to Don, because let's be honest, if it actually takes 45 minutes, Don didn't make it in 30. I mean, his last name's Wells, not Earnhardt. Let's be serious now. Come on. You believe that? Bullshit. No. He says, when he called, he should have clarified with the 911 people that it was an abduction. You know? How would you have sold that to him? Yeah, my daughter was abducted. Oh, what did the suspect vehicle look like? Well, we didn't see no vehicle. Well, can you give a description of the suspect? We didn't see no suspects. Where was your daughter last seen? In the basement. Where do you live at? Ben Hill Road. Abductor? He never sold that. They would have went for that shit anyway. Unless he would have lied and actually made some shit up. Yeah, it was it's like his 7'2" dude and tried to give some bullshit description. There ain't no way they're gonna buy that. Then he talks about trying to scare the heck out of Summer to keep her out of the woods. Wanted her to be just terrified of the woods. And I think that's kind of some horrible parenting strategy. Instead of just, trying to pound it home that, you don't need to be out of mommy and daddy's sight, that kind of thing. He wants to be like, if you go in the woods, it's a death trap in there. There's bears and lions and elephants and zebras. I don't know why you would use that technique. I would use listen, don't you go away from mommy and daddy. You better be within eye shot of me at all times. I wouldn't be like, oh my God, if you ever go in them woods, you are screwed. He tried to scare her is what it was. That's just going to give her like a phobia of nature. You don't want to do that. I don't think. I respect that out in the country there are wild animals. But I've lived in the country for a large portion of my life. And it's not this just vast utopia of danger that they speak of. It's weird how they act about the country. I still say that, and I got beat up in the comments for that last time. Oh, there's all kinds of crazy bears in Tennessee. Well, there might be. Hold on. I think my phone was picking up a bug or something in here. It's maybe dropping in on me. Spam. Shit was crazy. Did y'all hear that? I don't know what that was all about. It's my speaker. Shorting out or something. I don't know, man. It's a badass speaker, but I've had it quite a while. I think she's seen her better days. Then he gives the famous spiel about the dogs. How stupid they are and how the dogs weren't there that day. Not a one of them. They were all gone. For one thing, Don, if you wasn't there all that day, you was there a whole day at work, how do you know where the hell the dogs were? I don't believe none of that shit. And I know I seen where somebody talked about as soon as the search dogs got there, they had to put all them mutts up because they were, having problems with them and the Wells dogs. So that's just a damn lie. I'm convinced of that. That's my opinion. But I'm convinced the dogs were there. And, I'm convinced on a lot of this stuff, and it all points in one direction, in my opinion. I think y'all know which direction that is, too. He says he thought he got there at 5:30, but the 911 call says it was 6:26. How was you off by an hour? Just like everything else with him and Candace and timelines, none of it adds up. None of it makes any sense at all. Then he talks about the cops got their phones. And he says cops had his phone, Candace's phone, and Grandis's phone. And that all three of them phones had everything after 3:30 that day was deleted. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know why they would delete just after 3:30. I don't know why they would. I don't know. I kind of don't buy that. But then I kind of think that's a weird thing to lie about. I almost think that there is something suspicious that's on them phones, and it happened after 3:30. And I think Don's trying to kind of do maybe some kind of preemptive strike where he's going to say, well, when I got my phone back, everything was deleted after 3:30. And you're going to be like, well, we found this at 3:00. No, that never happened. It's going to be your word against his or something, He probably, or they probably all deleted everything after that before they turned their phones over. That don't make any sense to me. Unless the cops found something on them that they're going to use against them and don't want them to realize which thing it is they're on to. Could be a lot of different things, but depends on if you even believe Dawn to begin with. I don't know. And, you would think the cops would tell him not to be talking about none of that shit. And he talks about everything, as y'all well know. And that's why this case is so weird and so fascinating. Can you name one other case of something like this where there is this much video, audio of the parents doing just such oddball shit? I can't think of anything there's this much on. Can you? If you can, leave in the comments. I'm going to do that shit next. Because I'm getting a little bored with going over this all the time. I'm going to have to start splitting this up a little bit and mixing in some other people. It's just I know a lot of people that started watching me started before this, and I don't want to let them down by not going through it. And, I really have a lot of hours put into studying this and trying to figure out the best scenario I can of what happened. But I don't want to keep on the same thing, or I'm going to get burnt out on it eventually. And I don't want to do that. I want to still have a lot of heart into this. You know what I'm saying? Plus, I got some stuff. I can, people like my stuff, seems like. And I think I can carry that over into other people too. So we'll work it out. Then this is where he starts talking about his detectives. Don keeps telling Chris about his detectives. What's her name, Don? Oh, shit. Michelle and... what's her last name, Don? If you wouldn't ask me, I'd have known. Where they out of, Don? They out of Tennessee, Don? No, it ain't Tennessee. Where they out of? Shit. Do you know anything else about them, Don? One of them's named Michelle. Yeah, you told us that, Don. Anything else? He's got nothing, man. Nothing. Then he's like, I can give you their number if you want me to. And I think Chris smells this out from the get-go. Because Chris, he kind of plays along with it a little bit. But Chris is not super interested about Don's detectives. And, I'm sure all of you know this, but it turns out they're like a victim advocates group. Did I say that right? Victim advocate? Yeah. Victim advocates group. And really what they do is like help with flyers, they're basically like a support, an advocate. Don makes it out like, oh man, he's got these detectives behind the scenes, go figure it out. Don ain't dumb enough to hire no detectives. We know what happens when guilty people hire detectives. Ask the Coons family how that works out for you. We're going to do something on him too. Dior Coons. That little boy, man, I feel so bad about him coming up missing. Still ain't found him. He's been missing a minute too. I am going to do one of him because I know a lot about him. Seen a lot on him. Then he gives us this, Chris is like, first thought, who did you think might have done this? He's like, and this is his words, he thought it was some sicko hillbilly druggie. Sicko hillbilly druggie. Sicko hillbilly druggie. I don't know, don't ring a bell. Then he talks about who else could it have been then, Don, if it wasn't this sicko hillbilly druggie? Could have been a Facebook stalker. And this is one of them things and he does this a few times. He'll throw blame at others, but he ain't nothing his fault. So he brings up the Facebook stalker. Oh, Candace has been posting her pictures on Facebook. Now it's come back to bite us. Is what he's getting at. He's trying to say it's Candace's fault for posting pictures. That some pervert on Facebook was like, ooh, saw her picture and come and kidnapped her. It's not out of the realm of possibility because it couldn't have been just a random thing. It's not like somebody could have just accidentally stumbled up there and this happened. If it was, and you have never seen me once say that I know it was Dawn or Candace, and I have never said that. Now, do I think? Possibly. I'm not going to say. But if it is somebody else, it has to be somebody that knew about Summer. They didn't just accidentally stumble up Ben Hill Road and run into Summer down in the basement. There's no way. Oh, then he goes to this dude, the guy he fired. Turns out, Don fired a guy because this dude was on super dope. That's the way Don describes it. Like, it was more than meth. It's like meth times infinity. That's the way Don describes it. And Don acts like he's just so mystified about how people act when they're on dope. It's like, wow, man, this guy, I just don't know. He was acting, I can't explain it. Yeah, Don, I guess you'd have no idea what people act like when they're hammered. You probably wouldn't, because probably anytime you've been around somebody that was hammered, you were probably just as hammered. So maybe you don't know what it's like, what it looks like. Well, now you do, because you've seen it at work. I don't know where to go with that. That all I think is so funny how Don acts so just like naive about all things drug related. I don't know, Chris. And Chris throws the, what was he call it? Crocodile crackling? Some crap, I don't know. And Don admits to knowing what that was. And I was shocked that Don would admit to knowing what that was. I think crocodile's what they call it. I don't know. I'm old school. Some of this new stuff that's out, I have never even heard of. But anyway, Don admitted he knew what that was. Don probably does, because Don's probably tried it. Might have been what he was on that night. He took a swing at Candace in front of, what's her name, and her 10,000 subscribers. I don't know. Could have been. I won't swear to it. Might have been. But anyway, let's get back to the dude. He says it was this guy that was on super dope, and he goes through this dude doing weird stuff, and he just can't even explain how trash this dude got and all this. And then in the next breath, after he just builds this dude up as the biggest dopehead, druggy loser on the planet, and he's like, so I fired him. Now I think he's trying to pay me back. You really think a dude that stays smashed 24/7 could have pulled this off and still be out front of TBI in the game? I wouldn't think so. I mean, no matter what you think of the investigation they're doing, I mean, surely that type of well, see, that's where I struggle with this, because apparently somebody's outsmarting them, and if it's the person I think, then you don't have to be a rocket scientist to outsmart them. Anyway, that's what Don says. He fired this dude. The dude's mad at him, so he kidnaps his daughter. Now, if that happened that way, then that is the most over-the-top reaction I've ever heard of with somebody that got fired. You know, you'd think somebody fired you and you were really mad about it. You know, you might go, like, drop a deuce on their hood of their car, or, you know, pour sugar in their gas tank, key their shit, something like that. Kidnap their daughter. And that other stuff, I wouldn't do that. I'm just saying, you know how some people are. But that don't fit. Y'all think it fits? I don't think it fits. Then he brings up Michelle and his friends and the detectives. Keeps bringing up these detectives. And every time he does, he's like, you want their number? And Chris will be like, I don't know. And then Chris will be like, yeah, okay. And he'll be like, well, I can't say it out loud. I'll have to text it to you or something. And this happens like 3 or 4 times throughout this. He's just dying for Chris to think he's got detectives on the case. And Chris ain't buying this shit for a minute, if you ask me. That's my opinion of, hearing it. Because it don't sound like Chris is buying it at all. Then he mentions the Walgreen call. And, he says, because, that's the call where Hunter he says all this crazy stuff. And his story pretty matches Candace's story. He's like, well, if you're out running the roads, I guess I'll just work till dark because y'all ain't going to be home anyway. That's what he says. Now, that is right before it starts to get just really awkward. And these are the parts I don't like talking about, because from day one, it's Dawn saying stuff like this that has just creeped me out so bad. He goes with this, she loves me to death. I never liked none of that. I always thought, man, this dude and his ego. How do you know how much somebody loves you? Now, do I think my little girl loves me? Sure. If she was missing, would I be bragging about how much she loved me? No. I'd be begging for her back and telling anybody that could hear me how much I love her. Because I definitely want, if she could hear me, for her to hear it. And it's bothered me from the beginning. And there's a lot of them statements that just creep me out. I'm just going to be honest. They creep me out. And he talks about that morning. He says, she was asleep by my side. She had to be by me. I'm not saying for sure Dawn's but the stuff he says just sounds so wrong. When I read it, I feel dirty saying the shit. He says, then he talks about, I could say one harsh word to Summer and she would just break down. And I really got the feeling when he was saying that was something that he kind of enjoyed knowing, that he had that much power over her to where in her eyes, he was such a big, important person that him saying something negative to her just broke her down. I don't like none of this stuff we're talking about right here. None of this seems like the typical thinking and relationship between father and daughter, in my opinion. I don't know. Then he says, it kills me she's gone. It literally kills me. And I've watched a lot of this behavior stuff, what to look for, signs and stuff like that. And those are the kind of sentences. And I think even Steve Johnson in the interview he does with Chris, where he goes over a lot of the stuff Dawn has said, I think that's one of the things he said was weird, how Dawn put that too. Then he says, Summer with tears in her eyes, Daddy, I want to sleep with you. I want to be with you. Oh, that's so creepy, man. Ugh. Don't that just put a bad vibe on you? Just hearing him say that shit. It does me, man. I don't know. Maybe I'm making a mountain out of a molehill. I don't know. But that all just literally seems so inappropriate. And he talks about, I covered her up and I left that morning. Says he covered her up and he left. I'm hoping he just meant he put the blanket over her or something. I don't know. I don't like none of that. I don't like talking about it. That's the last time I think I'm ever even going to talk about him saying that crazy shit. Grosses me out just thinking about it. Oh, and I kind of skipped over this. But he brings up about the Subaru, because he mentions this Subaru a lot in a time span to where you can tell he wants this Subaru mentioned at every given chance. He even talks about his boss seeing the Subaru and being like, what are you doing driving the brand new Sub to work? You going through all this bullshit in the back of your brand new car? I don't think he realizes, by even telling that story, it makes other people think, yeah, why would you do that? It's kind of like he's busting himself out. He don't even know it. I don't know. That bothers me. And then they talk about, why he drove the Subaru. And he's like, I drove it because it just sits there. $600 a month I'm paying on this, and it just sits there. Like Candace don't ever drive it. So that makes me wonder. Because the way I understood it, that was Candace's car. And Candace swears up and down, she's basically running these kids bragging going to the lake and this and that all the time, So how's she getting there? Because Subaru just sits there. So all this stuff she claims to be doing, how's she getting there? This granny's truck, you reckon? Because that Subaru ain't yet. See, I mean, they contradict each other on damn near everything. These people are horrible liars. That's why I almost think maybe they're not guilty. Because, Lord, the TBI has got to be smart enough to catch these two. They contradict each other every other sentence. How could they be getting away with this? And, then he goes back to talking about the drive, the 45 minutes from Jonesboro. He made it in 30 because he's Don Earnhardt. And they ask him about breakfast. He probably had breakfast. He ain't sure. Now, that night they questioned Don. And that night he had to have been able to remember if he had breakfast that morning. And he's had to have told that story to cops, FBI, TBI, and all them a few times. So, does he really not remember? Or is he just trying not to get hung up on something? I guarantee in his original statement, they probably asked him that. And I guarantee they didn't accept. I don't know if it did or not. Maybe. I don't know. That was like yesterday, man. Why are we going over all this old bullshit? Is that what he said? I don't know. It's crazy. And that's a good place to stop. Because this is getting long. And there is a lot of this. Let me just hang right there for a second. This is going to be a good two-parter. So I'm going to stop it there because we're already up to 31 minutes. And I'm going to make it a two-parter. And I'll have them try to come out real close to each other. And we'll do it that way. Sound good, guys? And thanks, everybody, for the comments on the last video. Candace's interview from the house. Y'all really like that shit. I put in some time on some of them jokes. And I want everybody that watches this to understand I only make little jokes to loosen it up. Because if I only thought about summer 24/7 going through this kind of stuff, it would start having a really bad effect on my psyche, And I try to do it for y'all a little bit too. Keep y'all loose, you know what I'm saying? Because I know y'all get really emotionally involved in this too. And I'm not saying because my audience is 90% female that y'all are maybe a little more emotional than guys would be. You know how it is. Alright, guys. I'll talk to you soon with part 2. Oh, yeah. Hit that thumbs up. I don't like saying that shit because I know when I watch videos, I'm like, oh, God. But, as people keep telling me, it's important to my videos getting seen by more people. So, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, comment, turn the bell on for notifications, and, all that shit. Good night.